вы знаете, друзья, как мы решили сделать? Мы обратили внимание, что буквально в самом начале на нас очень классно повлияли инструменталисты, вот национальные инструменты как-то зарядили. Был, знаете, вот такой заряд, вот что-то такое узбекское, восточное, что в сердечке, душе находит огонечек отражения. Так вот, а почему бы в таком случае с подобной же ноты и не продолжить, и не начать вторую часть? Как минимум, леди, которые хореографически, я не знаю, выражая свою мысль, смогут взбодрить вас куда сильнее, чем мой, наверное, уже поднадоевший голос. Поэтому вот как мы делаем. Я уступаю сейчас место прекрасным леди и прекрасным исполнителям национальной музыки, а мы с Гульнозой появимся сразу после них. Господа и дамы, Абдулхашим Исмаилов, народный артист Республики Узбекистан, при поддержке наших потрясающих инструменталистов. И, друзья, предлагаю поаплодировать Дельнозе Артыковой. Это та самая леди, которая порадовала нас хорезмским лязге. Я уверен, вам танец тоже понравился. Спасибо огромное, маэстро. Между прочим, композиция подобрана не просто так. Она повествует о судьбе восточных женщин, которые, несмотря на все невзгоды и сложности, только благодаря вере в себя добиваются всего. И честно сказать, я это выдумал только что. Но как было бы здорово, если бы это все-таки была правда. Друзья, мы готовы начинать. У нас есть кодовая фраза, мы сегодня ее проверили. Она хорошо работает, она вызывает аплодисменты. Смотрите, женщина лучше всех. Класс! Это работает. Мы готовы двигаться далее. Мы обещали вам, что будет вторая пленарная сессия, что будет история успеха, что будет обмен, вернее, трансляция опыта международного. И я считаю, Гульноза, уже в целом можно не тянуть времени и приглашать сразу спикеров. Что скажешь?
Правильно. Sahnaga Toshkentdagi Webster universiteti rektori, professori Anthony Jarvisni taklif qilamiz. Qarsaklar ostida. Он ушел?
Нет, господин Энтони Джарвис. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome. Thank you so much for coming today. Now let us move on, and also we would like to share the stage with Ms. Jeren Gures, Country Program Manager of the UN Women Uzbekistan, PhD in Business Administration and Management. Thank you so much for coming.
Ayumi bilan tanishishga ulgurdingiz. Shuning uchun keling ularni jo'shqin qarsaklar ostida yana sahnaga taklif qilamiz.
Ayumi, for one more time, please honor us. This time we want to also listen to you as to a specialist. Thank you so much. Друзья, мы двигаемся далее, и следующим на сцену хотели бы пригласить Александра Лихтмана, основателя IT.com, с пиар-агентства в области IT в Казахстане и Узбекистане. Господин Лихтман, здравствуйте. Спасибо большое, что вы с нами сегодня. И модератор нашей сессии, мы с ней уже прекрасно знакомы, она на самом деле... Да. Игорь Федоров. Я очень прошу прощения. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Игорь Федоров, Head of PR and Marketing at Silverleaf JV. Игорь, здравствуйте. И модератор нашей сессии Рано Сыдыкова. Давайте ей поаплодируем. Господа спикеры, пожалуйста, занимайте ваши места. Мы готовы начать. Вам будет удобнее в этот микрофон, но мы правильно понимаем? Все, прошу.
So, thank you. Yeah, which is convenient. Okay, I'll probably take a seat here so that I can see you better. So, thank you all for making your time today to come to this event. We appreciate it a lot. And thank you for everyone who is taking their precious weekend time to come and learn from our session today. So let us start. We won't be going longer with the announcements. Let us start with a few questions we have prepared for today to ask our esteemed guests, and after we'll have floor for questions from you. So, Anthony, let's start. You are a rector at Webster University, and you're at the very beginning of where STEM starts, the education. So education is fundamental stage where gender balance is already goes wrong, if this is the right word to say, and we don't get enough engineers at workplaces if we don't have enough girls in the classroom. So knowing already Uzbek culture and Uzbekistan educational system, where do you see challenge in attracting girls into STEM in Uzbekistan? Yeah, whichever you want.
Is that okay? Okay. It's a really good question, Rana. I'm originally an historian, so I will take you on a short historical journey. One of the reasons why there are so few women in STEM actually begins in the 19th century. It's a process which really accelerates with industrialization. So up until that point, women were broadly involved in the European economies, both Eastern and Western Europe. With coming industrialisation, the state starts to take over more and more functions, particularly education, health administration that had been the location of women in the economy. So what happens progressively with industrialisation, and the pattern is repeated everywhere, is the systematic exclusion of women's work from the broad economy. So women become regulated to the household tasks, household duties, and not much of that changes really until the Second World War, particularly in the Americas and in Europe, when women are required for labour and are brought back into the workforce in great numbers. So what you have at one level is a systematic exclusion from public life. You have a systematic exclusion from critical areas in the economy, and a retreat for women back to the household. And that's a pattern repeated over and over and over again. On the other hand, particularly in tech, there is a secret history which we need to think about. Most of us will know, particularly those who've worked in tech, that Charles Babbage is accredited with the first differential computing engine in the middle of the 19th century. What most people don't know is the woman who crafted the algorithm that made Charles Babbage's computer work was a woman called Ada Lovelace, a mathematician born in 1815. Without Lovelace's algorithms, Charles Babbage's computer would have been a pile of metal and wood. The history of programming starts with women. And that's an interesting history which was repeated. Some of you know the famous Hollywood actress Hedy Lamarr, who in 1941 lodged a patent with Antiel for frequency hopping, an idea she introduced into the US Navy, which then used it to develop technology which helped win the Second World War. But it also gave rise to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and GPS. Without Hedy Lamarr's work, you would have had none of that. Now, also, without another important woman in the history of programming, you would still be using machine code. The first compiler was in fact developed by a woman in 1952, a woman called Grace Hopper. All of that had to be before then. Oh my Lord! I know. Fortran came and people had to use punch cards. I actually shared an office with the man whose father had developed Fortran, and he was forever apologetic for the pain it had caused a generation of programmers. So what I'm suggesting in a long-winded answer to
That's very interesting.
Rana's question is there is a systematic exclusion from areas of the economy, but there is another history that needs to be understood. And why it needs to be understood is because, well, a number of reasons which I can talk about a bit later. One of the problems with the inclusion of women into tech is it is partly an act of imagination. It is to imagine a different life, it is to imagine a different future, it is to imagine working differently. Why it is important that we remember those histories and those contributions, because if you hide them, you hide the possibility of a different future. So one of the things that I think is most important in any country, but in Uzbekistan in particular, is to rebuild the narrative of the importance of women in the economy. And I can talk about that in a different context in a moment, but it's creating, you get more women in tech by believing that they belong there, that they have a contribution, they have a history, and in fact it turns out to be a really critical history. If you think about the moonshots, some of you will have seen the famous film looking at the mathematicians and engineers. The people who did the calculation, the computing, was a group of African American women who literally created the algorithms, learnt to program the IBM mainframes, which made the moonshot possible. All of that was in fact done by women, and that history is only just starting to emerge. You may know the comedian Jack Black. His mother was about to give birth to him. She left NASA. On the way to the hospital, she finished the algorithms for the moonshot and sent them off, and then she went and gave birth. You know, I don't think many men are capable of that sort of dedication or literal delivery. She delivered both the moonshot and a baby within an hour. So that's not something you can argue with. So the argument, my long-winded argument, is that there's a history of women in technology, but there's also a history of women in the economy, which needs to be reclaimed as an active imagination. Women belong in the tech industry. They have not just a right to be there as a right broadly, but an historical right as part of the creators of that very industry itself.
Yeah, thank you very much. This understanding of history gives a lot of inspiration and backbone to where we really belong to. Thank you very much for taking us to the history and those important moments. So, Siren, let's talk about your experience. Reflecting your time in Uzbekistan thus far, what progress have you observed in achieving gender balance in the workplaces, especially within IT?
Wow. I'm in the country for 9 months, and I'm the head of UN Women Office, and I'm the only one heading the office. Me, myself, and I is the office. UN Women is the youngest United Nations entity in the country, and I think it's the amazing moment when we look at the wind of change from the highest level to the bottom to make real advancement on gender equality and women's empowerment. All I prepared for you today have been said by the previous speakers, so I'm a bit stressed what to say. But when I first came, of course, I made a very detailed mapping to understand the role of women in Uzbekistan. You hear me, right? The role of women in Uzbekistan and the potential of women. I think today one of the speakers touched upon the harmful social norms and stereotypes that hinders women to reach their full potential. It is in labor force participation, it is in education, it is in IT, you name it. Early marriage. Let's speak about the realities when we're speaking about the potential of the country. Do you know the growth rate of this amazing country? Please check UNFPA's recent study. The young population is growing, and the women, girls, are making the half. So how can we win a match if we do not invest half of the team, which is women and girls? So I want to underline the emphasis of equality perspective, because we spoke a lot about women, 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 but gender equality is not at all only about women. And gender equality is not at all a problem, it is a solution. And the more it's been understood at all levels, the easier that we have a sustainable development. Globally, not only in Uzbekistan, SDG 5, gender equality, is the least financed sustainable development goal. We globally fail on girls and women. So let's look at the big picture and then come back to Uzbekistan. Gender wage gap. I made an analysis on gender wage gap. We touched upon this in the previous session, right?
Yes.
I have the PhD, I speak Uzbek, Russian, he has the same qualifications, we submitted our application for the same position. Because I'm a woman, I have the potential to give a birth and leave the position for a while. I'm not preferred. Or I'm offered less. Of course, let's give her 1/3. So gender wage gap in Uzbekistan is 36%, which means equal candidate or equal colleague, male one, earns 100, I earn 64. Why? We born equal, right? We born equal, naked, without any identity. What made us fall behind? For that, dear participants, dear friends, we need to understand gender equality is not about women. We need more young boys and men to advocate for equality. In one of my sessions in a university, they said, "Are you a feminist?" Very challenging, right? The video is recording, everybody's quoting, and I said, okay, what am I going to say? Am I a feminist? And I said, If you relate feminism with human rights and equality, I'm a strong feminist, so you should be. I think this is where we need to start. Coming back to your question, unemployment rate among female youth is alarmingly high in Uzbekistan. If we don't get this window of opportunity right in this country, we will fail very harsh. And the government of Uzbekistan has fantastic investments and very strategic targets, doubling the GDP and halving the poverty by 2030. So it's exactly the time to invest in women. 8th of March is approaching. 8th of March is exactly what Professor mentioned about the women who fought for these rights. Not only about flowers and roses, which I always accept. But 8th of March is reminding us where we came from in terms of equality. We need to remind us about equality. And there was a question in one of the panelists asked, tell us one sentence to inspire us. When I'm so down about my work, when I lose some of my inspiration, I always read this. It's from Shirley Chisholm. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring your own folding chair. Our voices has to be heard. I'm not speaking about Tashkent. I'm not speaking about Tashkent region, Surkhandriya region, Fargana region, Nukus region, right? We need to reach the girls left behind because we should not leave no one behind. I think a lot of legal changes, improving the system, we are on the right track, but to name it success, we need implementation. And for implementation, we need to walk the talk. What I said, what our colleagues said, already known. So what is the action when we leave this room today? What is the action? Are we speaking about women in tech to inspire other girls and women and boys to be part of it? Conducting trainings, volunteering? That's my motto. I need to take away something to transfer into action in every meeting. Otherwise, it's a lost, fantastic Saturday here, right? So I also want to encourage you to think what is the takeaway of today's inspirational talks, get together, that we will really lead a transform together. UNESCO 2023 science report made an analysis that globally 28% of engineering graduates and 40% of computer science and informatics are women. Why? Because we are discriminated, because math is man and social sciences is women. Yesterday, my daughter, 12-year-old daughter, she was working on an application in her computer for her homework, and she said, I have a problem to access, I need to call my dad. I said, hello? I'm at home next to you, your dad is in Germany. You know, my daughter, I told we are equal, she understood, I am walking the talk at home, so I failed. She thinks when it's a problem with computer, not me able to sort it out. How come? How come?
Hello to stereotypes.
Exactly. So we need to tackle the root causes, gender stereotypes. I'm not speaking about cultural norms. We need to respect culture. We need to respect the values. But we cannot respect those that are discriminatory. Male-dominated culture. I love man. No problem. But why you are dominating? Give us space. We born equal. Remind us about this. Early marriage. Early marriage is an issue. And domestic violence. We have the law criminalized. We have the domestic violence criminalized. Law entered into force very recently, a couple of months ago. Look at the implementation. Follow-up. Awareness. Making the voice louder. And math anxiety. Are you scared of mathematics? In the study, it says women and girls are scared of maths. Why? This is fantastic, this is fun, but this is stereotypes, you know? Because you're a girl, come on, study on literature. Write an article, not on coding. I think I should stop here. It's a lot to do and it's a lot ongoing positively, but not enough. So that's where I stop.
Thank you so much, first of all, for putting the narrative and getting us back to the point of what are we taking from today's, what are our action plans, and this is point for each of us. Thank you very much for your narratives. With the next question, Ayumi, let me to address next question to you. So, having dedicated the past 6 years to empowering women in the tech industry, what strategies have proven the most effective in enhancing gender diversity in IT, bringing more women to the stage? And we, of course, would love to hear some stories.
Sure. So thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you to Sharon, because I met her the first day I arrived. I got off the plane in the morning, and in the afternoon we met with her and with Kamola in this meeting here in the center, and it was super inspiring because it shows that we are going to be working on a three-side hold between women in tech, UN Women, and obviously the Ministry of Digital. And this, for me, is really what has shown the most impactful collaboration. Every single country we've been to, the projects that have worked are the projects that we have been collaboration. We don't have to reinvent the wheel everywhere we go. The problems and the challenges and the successes as well of regions, of countries, are the same. There's not one country in the world that has found gender parity, not one. Some are closer to the others, but altogether, I think the UN report, the World Economic Forum, counted 131 years until we have gender parity. We don't have time to waste. We cannot wait until 131 years. So if you want this time frame to be smaller, we have to work together. So I think collaboration is key. It's been being welcomed by UN Women. We have signed a memorandum of understanding with UN Women during our global summit last year with Alia, who was the director at the time of Central Asia and Europe. And it was under the high patronage also of our president, Emmanuel Macron. I think for us it was a great message for also other organizations, because, for instance, you asked, what are the programs that work well? We have a beautiful program with the University of Luxembourg right now, EBU, and what they do is they offer programs that goes from blockchain development program, like in Haskell, to business administration, to all sorts of maybe dozens and dozens of courses that they give for free to women in tech participants. You just have to pay for the certificate. It's like 37 euros or something, but they've got an European university degree. So those things, if it wasn't for this power of collaboration, we would never have that. And there's nothing better than education. I think education, giving skills, is what has also proven the most important. One thing is the digital skills, the technical skills, the hard skills, and the other one is obviously the soft skills. And when both of them come together, magical things happen. So for instance, a little success story I'm very proud of. We have this learning center that you saw just now in South Africa, in Cape Town. It's in a very undeserved, very violent township in Cape Town called Philippi Village. And we created a little haven of space, a safe place where the women can come. They've got access to computers, they've got access to Wi-Fi. And one of the moms, she came and she started learning blockchain. So she did, it was a short course, like 2-month course, and she couldn't find a job. She said, okay, now we're going to help you to do your LinkedIn profile. We're also going to help you do your CV, etc. And we also told her to have a course in this EBU university, which she did, which was project management, I think. So with 2 certificates online, so the blockchain is that one, and having a mentor, we have our community and the mentor mentoring her throughout this journey, and having a new CV. She managed to get her first job in her life, like a full-time job. And she's got 2 babies, and she's a single mom. And so she started this, it was about 3 weeks ago, so I'm very happy. So it's the power of community, saying, okay, you're not alone, we can help you. What is it that you can get? Education, networking, contacts, certificates, and that will help you get a job. Because at the end of the day, knowledge without jobs, you know, we have to be able to pay bills, to be financially independent. So we don't just want to give knowledge to give knowledge. Yes, we have to continue learning, but first we can continue learning once our basic needs are met for the women as well. So yeah, I think the power of collaboration with different stakeholders, because we all want to go together. We don't have to be like working at different bubbles. And I think this is also something that Anna and the team, what they really want to collaborate with, working on this roadmap together with the local ecosystem. The other thing is, using what has already been, the availability, the available programs, and the people that are there to help, but the power of community on making it all linked together and support with mentoring, with role model programs, and with having access to opportunities. And I think because we are a global movement, access to opportunities, sometimes you have to look beyond your own city, your own country. You know, sometimes the job you're going to be looking for, you can work from here, but it can be in the US, it can be in Peru, it can be in Japan, it can be in Thailand, anywhere in the world. So you can export your talent, you can also import talent to the country. And I think you have to look beyond the frontiers and just think of, you know, how to best impact the women and the country.
Thank you very much. That has been a very inspirational story, and we hope we will have a replication of this kind of stories here in Uzbekistan. And moving on to our next speaker, Alexander, who flew from Kazakhstan tonight. Thank you very much for your efforts. And my first question, which will be leading floor to the next question later, you are founder of a company, PR agency for IT companies. So in this role, how would you describe how might companies or how do companies gain from championing gender diversity?
Thank you for having me here. And just referencing to Jiren's story about being challenged if she's a feminist. If I'm asked, am I a feminist? I say yes, I am. And actually PR is quite a stressful story, a stressful job. And you have to be multitasking, you have to be strategic, you have to be creative, but you have to be being able to focus. And it's not a stereotype, but it's my own statistic that ladies are doing PR job much better than men. My statistics. Sorry for PR guys who may be offended, but like this. But still. I try to have, well, 90% of my employees are ladies right now, but I try to have different genders, different, I would say, people from different locations, different geographics and so on, just to have a wider view on everything, because PR is about a wider view. You cannot be just doing the same thing every single day for all your life. You change every time, like every day, every month, every week. So, and also I have. It's not about gender diversity, but it's about diversity in general. One of our clients producing PC components and peripherals. They launched advertising campaigns for LGBT. It was in Russia, and it was even at that time it was very bold, and we had huge impact, and we had huge success, I would say, because we were bold and we were not afraid of going diverse. And I'm not here to talk about LGBT, but I'm here to talk about the diversity which you have to embrace, because this is important for you to strive in the future, and for country, for your companies, for anything.
Thank you very much. So our next speaker, Igor. Igor is the head of PR and marketing at Silverleaf, and Silverleaf, unlike other tech companies, it's more agriculture-oriented company. But you are doing so much in the space to to support the gender balance. So I would like to, and there are some interesting facts that were drawn to my attention. So could you please elaborate on the intriguing initiative at Silverleaf involving your support for Sagdiana Women's Football Club? So what prompted the choice of football at the focus of your support?
Thank you very much, Renaud, for the question, and thank you for inviting me here. It's a big honor to sit with all the panelists right here today. And it's a brilliant event, which I really enjoy right now. So before I start, I can say, Alexander, in my department, I have two ladies who is in charge for the PR and marketing, and they are really brilliant, and they do job much, much better than me. So Silverleaf, it's a joint venture American-Uzbek agriculture cluster in Uzbekistan, and our farm is based in Jizak. And in Jizak there is a Sagdiana women soccer team which we sponsor since 2020. But the sponsorship platform itself is not about the sports and the sponsorship even. If you look, I've visited dozens of games of that brilliant ladies who is playing soccer, and if you look at them, you will see several soft skills which we are willing to see in our employees in our company who will be leading a department, who will be in charge for really, really thoughtful work. They are dedicated, and what is most important, they are goal-faced. They are putting a goal, and every time they achieve it. In 2021, they were the first in the score football soccer team in Uzbekistan. So they won the regional cup. And in Silverleaf, we are, with this platform, we are seeking for other companies who we were willing to create some kind of platform where corporate society could implement their activities in the sponsorship packages as well. So join our sponsorship package and build up employees in face of these soccer players once they retire from soccer. So we are engaged all the companies to join us in this very nice activity because we are seeking to employ them afterwards after they retire from their football.
Thank you. That's a very well thought strategy. Interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just want to say I didn't know about this initiative, but I think sports is wonderful. Going to removing gender from sport. I started rowing when I was young, and at the time rowing was just a boys' sport we couldn't do, so we were the first girls rowing team, and it taught me so much. And I think that these team sports are so important for your life. Throughout your life, you learn how to be resilient. You learn how to have camaraderie. You learn how to fight for your goals, to be humble as well, because you will lose at some point. You always lose, you know. And sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But it teaches you focus, team play, work in a group, resilience once again, humbleness. And I think if women and people, everyone, all the children should always do sport. And for your company to be pushing that for soccer, I think this is brilliant. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I have one more thing to say about goal achievement. Back to 2021, we have conducted the first women football game which was dedicated to charity, and we brought the players to Esguemal Foundation so they can connect with children who are suffering from cancer, and we have fundraised money for this fund. So I think it's a good motivation how women can display the power itself, because women is everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I see impatience in your faces, so let's us have one quick round of another questions to round up our thoughts, and then we'll give stage to your questions. Anthony, let me get back to you. So with your extensive international experience, are there specific practices you believe could benefit Uzbekistan in achieving gender balance, and how Webster University in Tashkent is actively supporting gender equality?
It's also an excellent question. Again, not an historical diversion, but a theory of education diversion. One of the problems for any group who seeks to advance or change is the problem of the socially authored mind. And so one of the things that happens, particularly for women, is the acceptance of ideals, beliefs and assumptions which are given to them. So in my perspective, one of Webster's tasks, and particularly in the area of gender, is to promote something called the self-authored mind, which is this idea is that you understand your life processes and your educational process differently. So one of the great destructive myths about education is that it is a process of discovery, that you discover who you are, you discover what you want to be. It's exactly wrong. The real foundation of education is the willingness to create the self that you want to be, create the profession, create the world that you want, and not take it as given. So in terms of what Webster does, we work very, very hard to build that awareness about the self-authored mind, and particularly for young women who face enormous challenges in Uzbekistan and Tashkent. One is the problem of early marriage, which is a continuous issue. I think the meta task that we have as a university is to enable both men and women to imagine different lives. And so the reasons for that are particularly important. If you think about, and I loved your point about the important economic nature of that process. If you take two countries, which are a fantastic example, Bangladesh and Pakistan. Pakistan is, by all measures, an economic basket case. It literally limps from one month to the next in terms of its international liquidity. Bangladesh, on the other hand, has lifted itself out of poverty in the last 40 or 50 years. What's the difference? Primarily, the difference is how Bangladesh has empowered women, how it has involved them in the economy, how it has educated them. It has been led by women, prime ministers, for the last 42 years. It has pioneered the microcredit movement, continuously lending to women, continuously educating them in business. The microcredit movement globally is primarily an achievement of women and the success of women and their role in the economy. What we know, and this is not philosophy, it's not wishful thinking, what we know from the hard economic data is that economies that include and develop the participation of women in their economies do manifestly and magnificently better than economies that don't. The degree to which you, as an economy and a society, include women in participation at all levels will determine your economic future and your prosperity. So that's an important thing. In terms of the way in which we run the tech-related subjects at Webster, we have around 550 students in tech. Around 35% are women. The instructors, the percentage is not that good. But one of the things that we particularly encourage are internships for those women to make sure they get connected and start to build reputations before they leave the university. It's the most important thing because it allows them to imagine and experience a future and adjust their direction as they go. So we try and do that early on and quickly. So two things. The overall philosophy of the university, this process of creation, but then actively encouraging women in the technology degrees to imagine and experience their social and economic and productive lives differently.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for interesting insights. So once more. Seren, similar question to you about UN Women. Could you please give insights into UN Women's upcoming initiatives in Uzbekistan for the coming year and what outcomes you would like to accomplish?
UN Women's plans. I said it's been 9 months, and all the time when I come up with different program pillars to my regional director, she kept on telling Jeran, be realistic, calm down. You are one person. You cannot implement all programs. We need to prioritize. We need to prioritize. And from my zillions of ideas, we ended up focusing women's economic empowerment as the main program pillar to be built and expanded for Uzbekistan. Why women's economic empowerment? Because it is a solution to eliminate violence. It is the solution to prevent violence. It is the solution to increase prosperity of the community. It is the solution to give independence and voice to women. Because it's very easy, I can list you thousands of thematic areas such as violence against women, women's political participation, many. And we need to also be realistic that we have sister agencies and amazing government working. So what is the added value of UN Women to move the needle to the right direction, to make a transformational change away from siloed projectized approach? And we set with the Senate of Government of Uzbekistan, we set with Minister of Poverty, Reduction and Employment, and Minister of Digital Technologies. Because employment, women's economic empowerment is building skills. At the same time, you need to create the supply and demand at the same time. The private sector should be ready. Public sector should be ready, not to recruit women for low-paid jobs, but also for women leaders. That's why we are working so intensely at the moment with Minister of Digital Technologies to work on the digital literacy, financial literacy, and entrepreneurial skills of young girls and women, which will be implemented in different regions. As Ayumi said, before the chapter launched in Uzbekistan, we had the Memorandum of Understanding. So two amazing organizations, sorry, I need to praise my organization too here. Two amazing organizations got together with the ministry, with you now here, to make the big boom. And it's now, so it's another pillar. And my second area of intervention is making a nationwide study which will give us a regional snapshot of Uzbekistan on the gender equality story. What are the issues in Jizak different from Tashkent? And therefore, informing policymakers, informing NGOs, informing public sector, private sector to feed in their policies, because we don't have data. We know, we hear with gut feelings, we assume, but when it comes to evidence-based data, it's not yet there. So this is my big dream, to do it, nationwide study, and I need your help on that too, because it's a very, very, very big issue. And then to start from there on. I stop here because I can speak forever all my dreams in the country.
We wish the best of luck, and I hope we will contribute to it too. Ayumi, talking about Women in Tech Global, this is an exceptional example of diversity organization going to 50 countries, more than 50 countries. So what do you think is that success note of this initiative?
Well, for me, the success note is obviously the expansion, but the impact, right? Networking to network, it's super important, but what we want is to impact the lives of women. So if you want to impact one life, it's already wonderful, because you impact not only one life, but one family and everything, all the generations. But our goal is very ambitious, is to impact 5 million lives. So I think that if you impact a couple of thousand, you can make wonderful things. But if you can impact 5 million lives, we can start making change, sustainable change across generations. So this is really what our goal is, and together with UN Women and with other participants from the ecosystem, I think this we can definitely achieve. But we can only achieve all together, right? Because I think we can, once again, an individual, we can make a difference in the world, we can move the needle, but sustainable change can only happen if we all work together, if it becomes bigger than us, becomes wider than us, across boundaries. So I think this is the power of Women in Tech, saying that, okay, we don't belong to France or to Uzbekistan or to a certain nation, but we are global, because we all sisters and brothers, There's so much more that unites us together. We always put barriers in different ways, but we're all very similar. So I think we all should work together. And when we have the impact of one life, You know, I think it was Nelson Mandela who said, life is worth living not about what you don't want to remember, but what you have done, but the lives of people you have impacted. That's the real treasure of living. So I hope that you will impact as many lives as possible, so that we can make this change, and so that our children and grandchildren will not be here talking about this gender problem, but we'll be talking about, you know, how to go to Mars or somewhere else.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm being pushed to ask quicker, so let me quickly ask and let us share your knowledge with people. So, Alexander, could you please elaborate on the importance of self-branding in advancing one's IT career?
I think Shavkat already mentioned the personal branding, so I will not repeat him, but I would say that the fantasy is easy to be neglected, but the fulfilled dream is not that easy to fulfill, to be neglected. So, if answering your question, yes, you should be very precise on how you position yourself in your resume, in your LinkedIn, in your social media, and so on and so forth. But what is more important, if you achieved, like in this Uzinfocom video, if you achieved your dream, if you make it happen, speak up, inspire others around you, make it not look like a fantasy or hollow fantasy, but a fulfillable dream. And then you contaminate, right? Then you contaminate your community and people around you to at least to pay attention to what you achieved. And this is more about communication than just making your personal brand. But you should not avoid doing your personal branding.
Thank you very much. And our last question about agriculture, Igor. So agriculture stands out as one of the sectors where female workers are particularly vulnerable, often relegated to lower paid roles or integrated into family labor units, which are also usually non-paid. So how does Silverleaf work towards enhancing this scenario?
This is a good question, thank you. So at Silverleaf, we believe in trainings and personal development. So we provide women in our company with the technologies, with new sophisticated, expensive machinery, which we use to collect cotton, to harvest it. We work very closely with a company named John Deere, which is based in Austria. And we are using the best technologies that are available right now in the market to identify that this cotton was digitally verified, that this cotton was machinery harvested. So, and the data center that we have right now at our farm in Gizak, we're expanding it in a sister company named Silverleaf Global Ag Tech, which is running right now with two twin daughters of our CEO, Dan Patterson, Mary and Margaret Patterson. They are running this company not because they are relatives, but because they have more than 10 years experience in the IT industry, in technologies, in business development. And one of my colleagues from the company is right here right now, Laurel Davis. She is a graduate from this US State University, and she speaks 5 languages, so she's a project manager in our IT company. And we are very delighted that we can build up the community within women and help them to get this education in IT sector as well.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'm switching to you. Because of the time constraints, let's have 3 questions.
Oh, Rana, I'm sorry, we're absolutely out of time. We cannot accept even 3 questions. But maybe we shall move on the Q&A section for our 2 next speakers. And if our speakers just give some time after the closing ceremony, maybe our audience will be able to ask them questions personally. Господа спикеры, согласны ли вы, может быть, задержаться буквально на 15 минут? Is it okay for you to be here for like additional 15 minutes after the closing ceremony to speak to the audience? Вы не против? Скажите, пожалуйста. Okay. Спасибо огромное, спасибо большое. Давайте поаплодируем. Это было очень и очень полезно.
My apologies for questions later, and thank you all so much.
Спасибо огромное. Прекрасные кейсы, прекрасная информация. Мы многому научились, много услышали, многое поняли. Теперь же, друзья, те самые истории, кейсы, о которых мы говорили, это уже фактически некая практика, поэтому опытом своим поделятся, информацией своим поделятся наши следующие спикеры. Это очень и очень интересно. So, ladies and gentlemen, we want to invite to the stage Nazi Aripjanova, Regional Director of Public Affairs, Communications and Sustainable Development at Coca-Cola. Nazi will share the projects that the Coca-Cola brand is implementing in support of women entrepreneurship and sustainable development. Nazi, здравствуйте.
Menimcha ancha odam charchab qoldi. Shuning uchun hamma informatsiyani qaytarmasdan sahnaga Nazi